Sometimes it takes more courage to ask for help than to act alone. Ken Petty.
Be loud about the things that you're passionate about. Karen Warren.
Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Dr. Seuss.
Good morning. My name is Sophia Peterson, and I'm a sixth form boarder from Milton, Massachusetts. Here's a secret about me. I am not a fan of secrets. And I don't mean secrets about other people. I'm completely capable of keeping secrets. But when it comes to myself, it feels impossible. I have good reason, of course. 1, they stress me out. 2, they make my mind run in circles. And 3, I'll say it again, so much stress. Seeing that I am not a secret lover, I thought it would only be fair if I were open with you all today. So, here's a little bit about me. From an external point of view, I am independent. I am able to survive on my own. I prefer to be alone. But in reality, I love spending time with people I love, especially my family. I do everything with my siblings, go on adventures with my parents, and spend weekends with my cousins and grandparents. My tight-knit family feels unbreakable to me, as strong as steel. My childhood was never filled with familial conflict, which I'm very grateful for. And every moment with a family member was joyful. If anything, I'm dependent on spending time with people I love because this is what I know. One night, when I was in the 3rd grade, I was sitting in my bed when something felt wrong. So many different thoughts ran through my mind, questioning the silence that filled my house. For those who aren't familiar with my house, it's never quiet. Never. That night, though, my mom was not acting as usual. My dad had been gone all night at my grandmother's house. I was so bored, craving that nightly routine of my family sitting together, talking in the living room. Earlier that afternoon, my dad told me that his mother, whom I call Mimi, was very sick. He said he needed to go to her house and visit with her to help her feel better. 8-year-old me didn't think much of it. I knew she was sick. Old people get sick all the time, right? After all, my parents would go to support her in the hospital when she would have appointments. So, no big deal, I thought. This time, though, things were different. Mimi was sick, but not in the hospital, and I didn't know where she was. Eventually, that evening, my mom came into my room and sat on my bed. Immediately, I knew things were off. She was staring at the wall in front of her. No words were spoken. She hugged me and started crying. So, I bluntly asked, "Is Mimi going to die tonight?" My mom broke down in tears and said, "Honey, I do not know." Seeing my mom cry for the first time was a confusing experience for me as a child. To me, my parents were strong adults who were never sad about anything. So, why was she crying? She kissed my forehead and wished me a good night's sleep. That feeling of uncomfort lingered all throughout the night as I was trying to fall asleep. The pit in my stomach kept me up thinking for hours. I saw my mom cry for the first time. I didn't know why my dad wasn't coming home. I didn't know what was happening to Mimi. I was so anxious about the unknown. The next morning, I woke up and went downstairs. I saw my dad sitting on the couch and my mom hugging him. They both looked so sad. I sat next to my dad, and he squeezed me, spreading his love, although he was clearly sad. He mumbled under his breath while shedding a few tears. Mimi passed away last night. She told me to tell you that she loves you. Never forget that. Immediately, I started crying too. Why was she gone? Why didn't I get to say goodbye? My dad then handed me a small porcelain statue of an angel holding a heart. This was the gift Mimi wanted me to have as a keepsake of her presence. I learned sometime after her death that Mimi had suffered from lung cancer. This news, this secret, took some time to process, and I still haven't fully processed her loss, if I'm being completely honest. I was angry with my parents, contemplating why I wasn't filled in. I thought I was strong enough to handle her diagnosis. The first significant loss in my life felt like a giant weight added to my shoulders. This was in the 3rd grade, and it felt as if my world was flipped upside down. The aftermath definitely wasn't pretty. I spent days crying in my bed. Teachers at school would try to cheer me up throughout the class day, but I tried to act like nothing was wrong. Fast forward to 5th grade, 2 years later, when I became aware of another secret. And not just any secret, a big secret. I found out that my dad's father, Grandpa, had cancer as well. He sent an email to my dad and his siblings, sharing that he was diagnosed 3 years ago. He felt too ashamed to ask for help. He hadn't started any chemo or radiation therapy. Therefore, the cancer was fairly progressed. This news left me in shock. 3 whole years. How could somebody that has so much support not feel able to ask for help? Why over email? Why him? Why now? And most importantly, how much longer would I have him present in my life? From 5th grade through middle school, watching his health decline during each visit we had together was horrifying. Losing his hair and all the muscle on his body, his skin was growing pale. Going to hug him, and he couldn't get up to give me his usual tight squeeze. It was hard to know I didn't have the power to change anything. His health was completely out of my control. In November of 2019, my grandfather passed away after a long-fought battle. I couldn't rationalize the idea that my dad lost both his parents in the span of 6 years. Life felt unfair. It didn't seem right that I had lost 2 important people in my life when I didn't do anything wrong. But regardless, I had to accept the fact that I was powerless. The only thing I could do was move forward. Eventually, I made my way to Westminster. I was beyond excited to have a fresh start and meet new people. That said, freshman year for my class was not normal due to COVID, but I like to think we made the most of it. Whether that was scheduling all 60 minutes of our outdoor time, or sitting in the dining hall with one person for as long as possible. Everyone was trying their best to enjoy the new environment we chose to immerse ourselves in. As the school year got to the end of the winter term, I began to struggle with my mental health. Even today, I'm not really sure what caused a shift in my brain, as my daily life was going so well. For lack of a better term, anxiety and panic attacks hit me like a freight train. Every night, I was stuck in bed enduring a panic attack. My heart raced so fast, I thought I would die. Heat flashes made me feel like I was going to pass out. Teeth chattering so hard, sometimes they would chip. Sometimes I was so nauseous, I couldn't move. It was hard, and I kept it all to myself. I felt ashamed to ask for help, and I didn't want to seem sensitive to my new friends. What if they didn't understand? I didn't want to be that girl who never wanted to hang out. I was overwhelmed, knowing I couldn't go home or go outside of my room to distract myself. I was stuck in this spiral for several months. But over time, the anxiety got so bad, I decided I had to speak up. I looked to the people I love and trust the most in my life to get support. The three most prominent being my mom, Avery, and Maya. The more I leaned on my friends and my family, the easier the anxiety was to endure. It was in those months I finally came to understand why my parents never told me Mimi had lung cancer. They didn't want me to worry. It was in those months that I finally came to understand my grandfather's secret. He didn't want my family to worry. I became aware of how hard it can be to become vulnerable. I didn't want people to worry. So, if I had to give one piece of advice to everyone in this chapel, it is this: have the courage to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to lean on others, because in the end, nobody can or should keep a secret forever. Thank you.